Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Alkan pianists. This was a request, which I was going to do anyway, but I'm glad you requested it, actually. Now, for those of you who don't know who Alkan, or Alkan, if you want to pronounce it that way, who he was, Alkan was one of the great pianist composers of the first half or the middle of the 19th century. He was a technician on a par with Liszt, a composer of tremendous gifts. Really, he belongs up there with Chopin and Liszt and those guys, the great piano virtuosos. Almost all of his music is for piano exclusively or uses the piano. And he was an odd duck. He was eccentric. He was reclusive. He was religious Jewish, which was sort of a thing back then, as you may know. His music was eclipsed and ignored for nearly 100 years, more than 100 years after his death, pretty much. And he's only been rediscovered in the past 30 years or so, 40 years. And what a world of music it is. It's absolutely fantastic. Poetic, strange, extraordinarily difficult technically, requiring amazing concentration. His most famous works are the Etudes in all the minor keys, Opus 39, and the Etudes. We're not talking like little Chopin etudes. We're talking about some of them lasting half an hour, formed into larger groups of works, like the Concerto for Solo Piano, which has a 30-minute opening movement. His Grand Sonata, The Four Ages of Man, which begins really, really fast and gets progressively slower. I mean, he was very, very unusual and interesting. And lately, his music has been picked up by more and more pianists, especially virtuoso pianists, because it marries incredible technical difficulty with genuinely interesting content and, conceptual daring. There are tiny little sketches. My favorite is the Song of the Mad Woman by the Seashore. That's just unbelievably creepy and evocative. And not at all difficult. Not everything he wrote was impossible, but a lot of it was. And so, he's sort of out there now. He's getting more and more play, more and more attention. And a few pianists have really hung their hats on doing great Alkan, and it's a wonderful thing. So here they are. Number 1, Ronald Smith. Ronald Smith is known for Alkan and not much else. He was the prime mover, the driving force behind the rediscovery of his music back in the 1970s and 80s, and in that area. He wrote the book, Alkan, The Man and His Music. His real name, by the way, was Charles Valentin Morang. So how that became Alkan, who knows? But that's what he was, and it was easy to remember, Alkan. It really is. Ronald Smith recorded the Etudes in all the minor keys and a bunch of other things too. And they were very, very fine recordings. He's not really known for much else. So he is the guy, who got the ball rolling, and his performances have held up, I think, extremely well. There are other pianists who are more purely virtuosic and flashy than Ronald Smith was, but his musical integrity is never in doubt, and he has the chops for the music. There's no question about that. So after Ronald Smith, Raymond Lewenthal. Now, Raymond Lewenthal preceded Ronald Smith. He was an old school romantic virtuoso, very similar to Earl Wilde. They were good friends, if I'm not mistaken. And Lewenthal revived all kinds of interesting romantic repertoire. That was his thing. He was a character. He used to wear a cape and, pretend that he was, a Victorian something or other. And he recorded some Alkan, not a lot, but enough to let us know what we were in for. And he also was a tremendous virtuoso. And, his eccentricities as an artist and his preferences for niche repertoire prevented the Alkan breakout from happening. That took Ronald Smith, who came a bit later. But Lewenthal was a pioneer, and his Alkan is definitely worth hearing still. It's in the grand romantic virtuoso tradition, and it's really pretty amazing. Then we have a bunch of younger pianists who just took on the challenge and really surmounted it well. One of them is the Italian Vincenzo Maltempo, who's recorded the lion's share of Alkan's piano music, his piano works, and they were stuffed together in a box. There's an Alkan edition, which is really nice to have, and Maltempo is a terrific artist and a great piano virtuoso. His recordings I've found very, very interesting, and the nicest thing about them is that he does a lot of the shorter pieces and more obscure works, not just the big grand, the concerto for solo piano and the sonata and things like that. So Maltempo is definitely worth having, and his stuff is reasonably inexpensive, and there's plenty of it. After Maltempo, one of the newcomers on the block, Paul Wee. Paul Wee is amazing. He records for Biss. He is a barrister as well as a pianist of really staggering virtuosity and intellectual chops. And you need both to do Alkan well. You know, there are some people who are just, incredible technicians, but they're not very smart. And you're not going to get very far in the larger pieces by Alkan because they have extreme formal coherence and structural control. And you have to balance the insane virtuoso demands with the extraordinarily strict structural elements. And Wee does that very, very, very well. I hope he records more of it. He's done some incredible things. There's also a symphony for piano solo that goes along with the concerto for piano solo and some of the other things in the etudes in all the minor keys. And Wee has done the concerto and the symphony, and they are really, really fine performances. However, the Alkan guy, to end all Alkan guys, is Marc-André Hamelin. He's recorded a lot of Alkan. Thank you. He's done the concerto twice. He first made his splash doing the concerto for solo piano on Music and Arts. A wonderful performance, still kicking around. Then he redid it for Hyperion, just as good. But that first recording on Music and Arts just, sort of told us not only that Alkan was a thing, along with, Ronald Smith, who was still very niche, but that there were pianists out there who could blaze through the music with the requisite bravura. I mean, Hamelin is a technical beast, but he's a very thoughtful artist as well. So he was perfect for this music. He was absolutely made for it. And I remember quite vividly, I was staying once in the south of France, and I brought this recording with me because I was kindly staying, me and my friend, Zurenmeyer Eller, who's here sometimes. We were staying in a being renovated farmhouse that was owned by a Russian pianist. Not the best known Russian pianist, but a very good Russian pianist. And, it had no plumbing, and we weren't supposed to use toilet paper. It was very exciting. But I brought this along because I thought maybe it was something he hadn't heard of, that he should hear Hamelin play this piece. He had the score. He'd never played it, never really looked at it, actually. So we plonked it on, took out the score, and when it was over, he was ready for retirement. He was so depressed because it was so terrific. So those are the 5. You may have others, because nowadays other people play Alkan, and some of them are really very good at it. But I think these are the biggest and the best. And if you've got some others you want to add to the list, feel free to jump in. We'll see what accumulates. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.